Hello, world. Ijoma O'Neill is my name. I've reached a point in my life where I'm looking back and thinking to give back what I thought I should have had. All my life, I wish I had someone who talked to me, held my hands through the stages. I would have done better than I did right now. And so I think I owe it back to my younger self to have a conversation. And the Onpurpose podcast gives me that platform. While talking to my younger self, you're listening to our conversation. And I believe it can help you wherever you are in your 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s. I'm 52 right now. And I intend to talk this way as I get old. So the seasons will change. The conversations will get more intense. But I know that I've lived enough to give you certain nuggets that will help you in your life, building your faith, building your career, building a loving family, making you healthy, and also investing wisely. I hope that you follow us through this conversation on the Onpurpose podcast and it will be useful to you. God bless you. Here again, we are on a new episode, and I'm attempting through these episodes to talk about setting autos. I remember growing up, I had access to certain materials that will teach you how to do this, how to cook, how to play a game, and all that. I'm sure technological development has brought us the opportunity of getting a lot of autos online. But then the subjects of life needs their own auto. And because our discussions on the Onpurpose podcast is about life, and that is the 5 dimensions of life, which is your faith, your work, your relationships, your health, and your finances, I would like to talk about a few autos. So on this particular episode, I want to talk about how to build wealth, I know a more catchy subject would have been how to be rich, but there's a flood of such subjects on the line, and many of them are just talking about tactical approach to the subject. But here I will take you layer by layer into the depth of that subject. When it comes to building wealth, it's a lifelong journey, very personal journey. And the people who, out of desperation to be successful, just look by their side and see somebody who they consider to be doing well, and then they immediately look at what the person is doing, what seems obvious to the physical sight, and they adopt it and just assume that if they do such things, they would have such results. So it's better to become really wealthy than to look wealthy. There are people who have the dressings of success. They travel first class, they take their children on vacations, they put their children, list them in very expensive schools, but they just actually practicing or looking successful, looking wealthy when really they are not. So let's begin to piece it out. First is the drive. I want to talk about the drive for success. I found that 2 kinds of people eventually get what they pursue. Should I say what they pursue? Okay, some people acquire things because they are pursuing money. Let me use money. I think money is very measurable. They do everything just to make money. These people have an underlying understanding or a picture of the adverse effect of not having money, which is in essence poverty. So their drive is their hatred or fear for poverty. I haven't been raised in squalor, depravity, in absolute lack. If you find yourself in that kind of situation, it can bet in you the wrong motivation to pursue wealth. And these people become what I would call desperate to have money. And they'll do just about anything. They have itchy ears. They're the kind of people that just jump on anything they hear, this investment scheme, and they jump on it. Just because something is called an investment doesn't mean really it's an investment. It may be somebody or a group of people who have plotted out and set up certain things, and then they build up testimonials of results. They ask you to put this, and then you get this, and then you find these people, all of them saying the same story, telling you, I know this person who put in this amount of money and they got this. If you look at it right now, in our country, because of the extent of poverty in this country, you find that alongside with it are a lot of platforms that promise quick wealth, money overnight. If you put this amount of money, you get this amount of money. And the people who jump into all these schemes and eventually get their fingers burnt are not asking the right question. Are they even interested in those questions? All they want is the result. Desperation makes people to do just about anything. When you're a desperate person, the result is what is important to you. You don't mind the means. And here, when I say the means, I'm not necessarily talking about the morality of the subject. I'm talking about the fact that apart from pursuing wealth because your drive is lack or poverty, you could flip it around and attract wealth by who you become. Because really, money is not the paper that you see. It's not the legal tender. It's not even the zeros that is transferred into your account. Those are just mathematical symbols to represent the amount of credit that you have in the financial institution. What money really is value. So the legal tenders only represent those values if you have them. So if you become more valuable, particularly to the marketplace, I want to qualify that, because if I say become more valuable, some people are valuable morally who are not valuable commercially or financially. So if you become more valuable, you would attract the equivalent in material form, which is money, which means you're solving some significant problem or you've developed some kind of knowledge, attitude, and skills, and also relationships that that causes money to gravitate towards you. So 2 things I've outlined here is, number 1, you can become wealthy by pursuing wealth. Most of those people who pursue wealth, is desperation that drive them. They ultimately may have money, cash, but they don't build wealth. Building wealth is like building anything. It starts with a foundation. You have to lay the foundation for wealth. And so that leads me into talking about 3 factors, 3 things you must bear in mind. So the first I want to talk about here is, what do I need to do, or what is required to do to become wealthy? Remember, when I started this discussion, I told you it's a lifelong process. So I'm not talking about, if you're not thinking long term, you will never appreciate the concept that I present in my podcast. Because I'm dealing with subjects about life. And so they are fundamentally based on principles that are universal, timeless, and self-evident. So first is, what do I need to do to become wealthy? I'll talk about that, and then I'll talk about number 2, which is how does building wealth, how does it work? How does this work? Remember, the first thing I talked about is what, and the second one is how. How does it work? But ultimately, we'll be talking about the why it works, So let me start from the top of it. What works, or what to do, what you need to do, it's everywhere in the world, people are financially successful, or everyone who's become wealthy in this world became wealthy because they invested. So what brings wealth is investment. Now, you may think that that's just so simple. Just hearing this subject, depending on where you are with regards to your financial education, you would think you have heard me, because you only heard me from where you are or from your position of understanding. Because when you get into the subject of investing properly, you find that it's a world of its own. It's a mindset, and there are skills for investing, and there are different vehicles for investing. There is the technical aspect of investing, and there also is the fundamental aspect of investing. Well, all of that is just to introduce to you first, before I go in depth to talk about it, what to do. What do I need to do to become wealthy? I need to invest. Secondly, how does investing work? So you see, the first subject, which is what I need to do, has an underlying principle. Investing works based on the principle of compounding. The principle of compounding is a universal natural principle built into life, built into nature. It works in everything and in every aspect of life. Compounding is the incremental progression. If I make a deposit of 1 unit of whatever thing I'm talking about and continue to make such deposit, it builds up gradually. But it's not just the accumulation of that thing. Compounding is a multiplier effect of whatever it is that you are adding up. So let me lay the foundation for the disciplines that I will talk about as the why things work. I like to always sort of summarize what I'm teaching halfway into my subject. I'll sort of look back at the subject so that somebody who's following me will be able to catch what I'm talking about. Because this is a bit complex, so it's very important for me to take it one step at a time. First of all, I talked about pursuing wealth. The drive for wealth for some people is the lack that makes them pursue wealth. But if you have a dream of success, then you can build yourself up so that you can attract wealth. And I said, if you're going to be wealthy, you're going to lay the foundation for wealth first. And I talked about the 3 things that you need to know. Number 1, you have to know what to do, and that is investing. Number 2, you have to know how investing works. Investing works by the principle of compounding. But number 3, you have to know why it works, or why. You can have 2 people. One knows to invest. He knows that investing is what he needs to do to become wealthy. He also understands that the undergirding principle for investing is compounding, and yet he does not have the capacity, the ability to stay through the process. And that why is discipline. 3 factors here. Investing is what you need to do. Compounding is how it works. But discipline is why it works. Discipline is why it works. Discipline is what separates any 2 person, the one who succeeds in this pursuit or this endeavor, from the one who doesn't succeed. It's discipline. So what is discipline? It's that focus, deliberate, determined practice. Doing something over and over and over and over again is the only way you become that thing. All skills are mastered through discipline. Some people say practice makes perfect. I say practice, qualify the practice, discipline, deliberate practice. Because a lot of us do certain things haphazardly, but we are consistent about the irregularity of what we are doing. That we accumulate or build what I call habits that are not useful, habits that do not help us. So to lay the foundation for wealth, if you're going to be successful, it is why you are going to be successful that is going to be the foundation upon which success financially will come. Which means building wealth starts from building you. And it's a matter of the 4 financial disciplines. Because, yes, investing works through the principle of compounding. However, if you are a poor investor, the person who's going to invest is the one who is either the first asset to the endeavor or the first liability, so to speak, to the endeavor. So you hear people say, hey, I've done that, I've tried that. Some people tell you network marketing doesn't work. I've done it. No, the system works. You didn't have the discipline to stay through the process that works to reach the result that was promised. If somebody got into a room and did a very interesting presentation and showed you testimonies of people who had succeeded doing the thing, you will only be hyped up temporarily, but you have to get to work. Now, the problem is that people who pitch you on things like that, they are not confident enough because they really just want to enlist people. They're not confident enough to tell you that this is just a natural process. It works only if you walk it. It's a long, arduous process. It requires your development. It will take a lifetime. Now, just sharing all of this puts you off. However, whether you start doing it or not, you're getting old nonetheless. Yeah, if you don't change in your 15s, you will become a young adult. If you don't change in your 20s, you become somebody in their 30s and then 40s and so on. So the issue is this: any singular year of your life, you can pick it up and change the trajectory of your entire life if you become more deliberate with the different or with any particular aspect of your life. And the way discipline works is discipline in an aspect of life can be transferred to other aspects of life because it's the same person. Once you can be disciplined financially, you can be disciplined emotionally. Once you can, so if you work on yourself, you become the asset. So the first investment, if you're going to be successful, you want to build wealth, the foundation of wealth is the investor himself. I would like to say that again. The foundation of wealth. This is not like your typical investment strategy. When people put you in a room and they say they want to talk to you about investing, they go into the technical aspect. I'm first dealing with the fundamental, universal requirements of building wealth. The technical aspect of building wealth will change from one asset class to the other. The technicalities of building real estate wealth is different from the technicalities of building business, technicalities of building paper assets or even commodities or even developing people. I will get to that as the 5 classes of investment in the course of this conversation. As I talk to you, I'm concerned that the subject is simple because by the time I start introducing some technical jargons, I could lose you down the line. So let me go over it a bit again. I said the first place to check is your motivation for wealth. If poverty is your drive, you'll be a slave of money because then it's just a paper you're chasing and you're not becoming anything. Therefore, you are not laying the foundation for stable, sustainable wealth, which should have been the individual. But if you have a dream of success, if you have a place of contribution in the commercial market and you begin to develop yourself, you're actually pouring a strong foundation that will lead to it. After talking about the motivation for wealth, I talked to you about the 3 things that are required. First, what to do. Why did I say it's investing? Because when I started to talk to you about the financial disciplines, there are 4 of them, and investing is just one aspect of the financial disciplines. Remember, they're called financial disciplines because they really work on you. Discipline is how you become. Discipline is how you become. So in life, there is what you want, but there's who you have to be to do what you need to do in order to have. If you're somebody who set goals, all your goals can be broken down into 3 aspects. The goals of what you want to have. I want to build a house. I want to drive the best car. Or my children to do that. These are the things you want to have. These are the goals to have. Now, you can't have these things unless you do what will produce these things. So that's another set of goals. So if you set goals of the things you need to do so that you would have, then your goal or your actions are more aligned now with the goals that you have. But those things that you wrote down that you want to do, you will not do it. For example, if I say I want to lose weight, yes, that's what I want to have, a slim, fit, healthy body. What do I need to do? I need to eat right, rest properly, exercise. That's what I need to do. But the deepest thing is who I need to be in order to do what I need to do so as to have what is promised. See, these things are connected. So who I need to be is the asset or the liability. And this is the last thing people want to deal with. That's the foundation for success in any aspect of life. And discipline is how you become. Discipline is how you become. Discipline turns a flabby man to a healthy, muscular man. Discipline turns a broke man to a rich man. Discipline turns a problematic marriage to a successful marriage. In every aspect of life, is being. Being is the ultimate foundation for success. So if you want to be successful in your finances, remember I said it's a lifelong process. You have nobody to compare yourself with. Everybody's on their lane. You may just be looking at somebody having something that their being cannot sustain. Then ultimately they would lose. And if you don't understand that wealth is built inside out, the first asset is the person. So you pour a strong foundation of wealth by becoming a wealthy person. Now, you see the way I choose the language, I shifted from what the person has to who he is. Now, if you go to an investment class and all they are teaching you is all the things you need to do, all the things you need to do, all the things you need to do, they are teaching you formulas. Formulas. These are tactical approach to making money. A few days ago, I was sitting somewhere and a guy called me, said he needed to see me, and he went to the corner and he presented an investment opportunity to me. He said to me that they have this order from the Republic of Niger, and it's a government contract. They need to lift petroleum product via road from Nigeria to blah, 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 blah. They need like millions of tons and all of that. For him, that's a very big business. And it's very good investment opportunity. Now, this is the kind of thing people jump into very easily. Some of them succeed. But some also lose all of their savings because of things like this. Now, because of who I have become, I am not excited. I'm not excited. I consider certain area because of who I have become, and the safety guards are not there for me to put my money. So as I'm talking to you right now, I'm not even giving response, but I know I'm not going to do it. And I'm not bothered about losing the opportunity. I'm not a desperate person. There are people who will not sleep until they look for money or get somebody who has that money and put it. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't work, and they get their fingers burnt because the person has a poor foundation for wealth. Who he is an opportunist rather than an investor. See that? So what are the disciplines that makes you a qualified investor, somebody that will become wealthy? Number one is the discipline of earning. And I want you to listen closely and take this slowly because it builds up in its sequence from one to the other. You earn first. You increase your capacity to earn by developing certain skills that is useful to the marketplace. Now, some of us, that's the reason we went to school. Actually, the essence of going to school, and I'm talking about tertiary education, I'm not talking about basic education. Basic education is for us to just be able to interact with the world. But every one of us comes into the marketplace with a specialized talent that has been honed into useful skills, for which reason you can be called a doctor, a lawyer, a pharmacist, a tailor, a designer, whatever it is. As long as there is need in the market, your expertise can be exchanged for value, which is money. But that is the beginning. That is the surface of the discipline of becoming an investor, or becoming wealthy, because investment is just a part of it. And that's the discipline of earning. Now, with your ability to earn, another leg of the financial discipline is the discipline of saving, which is the discipline to set aside certain amounts of the money that you are earning over time, because you are now dealing with the aspect of building wealth that is called capital formation. capital formation. Capital formation. And some people, you would have seen people in your life who had a lot of money through their working years, but lacked the capacity. I didn't say ability now. The capacity, did not develop the muscle to control money and set aside seed money. Because when you are saving, you are building capital. And you do that to a certain extent. Then you move over to the third leg of financial discipline, which is investing. Now, investing is a multiplier. So when I said what you need to do is to invest, I'm not talking about looking for some novel opportunities out there, like somebody who's looking for a quick break. You should go and play the lottery if that's what you want. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about multiplying seed. Let me give you an example with what you can relate to. Your capital is two things. There is financial capital, which is the money you have saved. But there is the human capital, which is who you are. And of the two, the human capital is the most important. Who you have become. Because for you to have the multiplier effect through the seed that you have, which is the money you have saved, that money has to be put into a financial vehicle for investing. And there are 4 classes mainly. I usually add one, which is people, but let's keep that aside. Which is either, for example, you put into building an enterprise, a business. You build a business. It is the toughest endeavor to take on as an investor. Why is it the toughest? The discipline required. The discipline required to identify a problem in the marketplace, design a product that solves that problem, assemble people who will use that product to solve the problem in the marketplace, set up processes, standardized processes that you call system as the operation of the organization to solve that problem through the people, and then ultimately the profit that comes from it. This is systematic. Now, every aspect of identifying the product or the problem, designing the product that solves the problem, leading the people, setting up standardized processes, and then managing profit, this is a conglomeration of skills that if you don't have self-control, you can't. So leadership is at the core of every form of success. Leadership, which is becoming the best of yourself, is at the core of every form of success. If you're a good leader, you'll be a good father. If you're a good leader, you can be a good business person, can be a good sportsman, whatever, because you lead yourself to do what needs to be done. So you see it now, discipline. Discipline is the essence. Discipline turns you into the subject that you're engaged in. Discipline is the essence that is required for you to apply the principle that makes the formula work. I've just talked to you about what you do, how you do it, which is principle, and why it works. Why it works is discipline. It's who you ultimately become. So let me tell you how compounding works. So you have saved, and therefore you have this seed. If you have a unit of anything and you add another unit of that thing, you would have 2. Let's say 1 as a number multiplied by 2. For example, 1 multiplied by 2 will give you 2. But if you add 2 to 1, you will get 3. But you see, multiplying and addition are 2 different things. When you are saving, you are adding. When you are saving, you are adding. But when you are investing, you are multiplying. Compounding is multiplying. Compounding is not saving. Saving never makes anybody rich. Saving gives you the capital that is required for you to inject it into a financial vehicle for investment that ultimately leads to financial wealth. But before you even get into those doing, you have to work on being. That's why I say the foundation for success in dealing with money or anything in this life is the person that you become, and it's the discipline behind it that it should be your ultimate focus and concern. So 1 plus 2 is 3. At the base level, it seems like the addition is doing better than the multiplication. If you take it another step, 2 times 2 will be 4 now. But the other accumulation, which is the arithmetic progression of adding, if you 2 or 3 plus 2 will be 5. If you look at these first 2 steps, it seems like the addition is doing better, right? Because 1 times 2 is 2. But 1 plus 2 is 3, bigger than the 2. But when you get to the next step, 2 times 2 now is 4. 3 plus 2 now is what? Is 5. The aspect of addition seems like it's doing better. That's what saving does. It's a very slow process. It looks nice at the beginning. But after here, they separate. 4 times 2 will be 8. That's the multiplier effect. But here you have, 5, I believe, plus 2 will be 7. Now, they are deviating already. They are going in different direction. 8 times 2 will be 16. That's the multiplier. That's how compounding works. And here where you have, I believe it's 6, am I correct, or 7 or something like that. I hope my mathematics is correct. If you had another 2, it is still way below. So, saving does not make you financially successful, but it's a required discipline for capital formation and for financial management, because you have to be able to control money and direct it where you want. So when you are practicing saving at any level, if you are earning 10,000, you are saving 1,000, it's not the money that you're saving that is the real thing. It's the person you are becoming, because you are laying the foundation for wealth. You're becoming an asset. See that? So somewhere along the line, you begin to see the multiplier effect. Now, to do it, it means that you and your capital has to choose a particular financial vehicle. And specialty is important here. People like to jump here and jump there. No, if you're going to focus on real estate, focus on real estate. When you are successful with one particular financial vehicle, you can now diversify. But you must master a particular, you're either going to do business development, which is you are building your own enterprise, or you get involved in real estate, and each one of them have different technical aspects. Or you get into paper assets, or you get into commodity trading. Whatever you choose. When I teach to this point, I like to go backtrack, because by the time you are hearing a lot of things that do not have proper representations in your mind, they will become academic. And when we start to talk like that, we are losing people. We're losing people. And I want you to understand this at the most basic level. That's why I'm saying this. So number one, what do I need to do to build wealth? I need to invest. That's it. However, how does investing work? Investing work through the principle of compounding. Why does compounding produce success in investing? It's discipline. It's discipline. So the foundation for wealth is the investor. However, once you have a strong foundation, you must build upon it. So the person is the foundation. Now, you have to have a plan. The person follows a plan, and ultimately, you have to have a practice for investing. What do I mean by that? If you have a strong foundation, you know what you are doing, then you have to have a plan. So if I have a plan, for example, and somebody presents an opportunity that is not in line with my plan, I know it's an opportunity I will let go of. Because investing is very strategic. There's a science to it. You're not an opportunist. You're not jumping here and jumping there. You are following a particular. I told you I had an opportunity, and I turned it down. It is not possible for anybody to to, how will I say, scam you or dupe you if you are yourself not desperate. And why are you desperate? You're not the investor. You're an opportunist. Just because somebody labels an opportunity what he calls an investment. For example, I don't have control of entity. Somebody's telling me to supply fuel. We don't have, the way he presents it, yes, it doesn't even make any sense to me. The way he presents it, it does not make any sense to me. And I didn't bother about asking the questions, because if he was sophisticated, his presentation will cover my concerns. So that's the kind of person that after you have put your money, what you'll be dealing with is that the person he is expecting to get information from didn't give him information. That's exactly where so if you are a hustler, this is what hustlers do. But building wealth has nothing to do with hustle. It's systematic. It's at the core of building wealth is your personal development and transformation. So I teach that financial intelligence and a good financial plan executed through financial discipline will lead to excessive wealth. Remember, I said it's a lifelong process. You would have to listen to this episode several times so that it can school your mind slowly. I had to pack so much in a short time, and I'm rounding off right now. But it's because everything I say is relevant, but you have to sit down and listen to it again and again, and then begin to walk your way through it. You can pick a decade of your life and change the destiny of your generation. Many people make excuses. It's because I'm from a poor family. That's why things are like this. Well, if you are from a poor family, a rich family can come out of you. You can be the transition person. You can commit to something for the next generation. Something that starts with you. And I say, when I recommend a decade, some people feel like, I don't care whether you're 20s, 30s, you have a decade coming. And if you commit to anything that is a useful discipline, I tell you, in 6 months, you will feel the psychological shift. You begin to experience yourself differently. You begin to love yourself for who you are. You'll be on a path that over time will become autopilot. And that can be transferred to many other areas as success. So here's my thought. I hope that it blesses you. You can listen to this over and over again. I'm signing out. Ijoma O'Neil. God bless you.